Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back for your new moon in Leo solar eclipse transit update. The eclipse station's exact on August 12th at 1:37 p.m. Eastern Time, 20 degrees and 2 inches in Leo for the sun and the moon, because again, it's a new moon solar eclipse. You see me looking off to the right, as always, just got my handy dandy notes over here. Because as every other moon cycle we move through this season, we have quite a doozy. And this one is subtly and unconsciously focused on the unconscious, the archetypal energy. There it is. I always say it wrong. This archetypal energy that we'll be moving through both individually speaking and as a collective. So just to start, as you can see in the chart, to my right here, we have a kite formation. We have a kite formation. So we're moving from the beginning of Leo season with that cradle formation that was taking up an abundance of energy. And again, the cradle begins on July 19th, and then Jupiter moves out of the exact cradle dynamic on the 23rd, the second day of Leo season. So a good 5 days of that cradle stationing exact, with Juno being with Pluto. We already talked a lot about that, so we're just going to tap on it here and then move on. But we're starting with that cradle dynamic. And then for the Leo new moon, another very prominent part of Leo season, we'll have a kite formation. So the trine for the kite, the very back end of the kite will be Pluto at 3 degrees Aquarius. Then we'll have Venus at 5 degrees Libra and Uranus at 5 degrees Gemini. And then to lead the kite, flying in the direction that we're going towards, is Mercury at 5 degrees Leo. So again, Venus, Uranus, Pluto to make the trine, Mercury flying the kite. And I like kite formations because it is almost like, it also kind of reminds me of the archer, because the energy of whatever is at the tail end, which in this case is Pluto and Aquarius, is almost being pulled back to shoot up, being guided by the wings, Venus in Libra, in its exaltation, or in its rulership, I should say. Venus in its rulership, and then Uranus in Gemini. So the air sign trine being catapulted and guided through our expression towards Mercury, towards our intellect, towards our understanding, towards our awareness in Leo, which is all about self expression. It's all about the amplification of our most conscious truth, right? But as we kind of touched on in our, I think it was the Aquarius full moon video, with Jupiter's involvement in Leo, I believe the transit of Jupiter through Leo is going to be more of the performance, where Jupiter through Cancer was about embodying and allowing those deep, dark, uncomfortable truths to come to the surface. So we had to see them. So they weren't just unconscious, and we couldn't just turn a blind eye to them anymore. Jupiter through Cancer was like a reckoning of truth, where I think Jupiter in Leo was going to focus too much on, hey, let's keep business as usual, especially because the South Node's going to be in Leo by this point. The South Node is in Leo in the middle of Cancer season, I think. I need to double check the date. Yeah, no, it's after Leo season just begins. It's the 26th of, um, not of Cancer, the 26th of July. Check where you are in the world, because it might be the 27th, but for the United States, it'll be the 26th of July that the nodes transit into Aquarius and Leo. So again, because of the South Node's involvement in Jupiter's transit through Leo, I don't think it's going to be amplification of light and good and gorgeousness and blah blah blah. I think it's going to amplify the performance, amplify the mask. It's going to try to put away those dark truths that we saw during Leo through, or during Jupiter through Cancer, and shove them back in the closet. What do you? There is no war embossing say. That's the energy of Jupiter through Leo that I'm expecting. So, with Leo season being the first season to kick off Leo's South Node transit, and Jupiter, like there's a lot of involvement here. That again, there is no war embossing say. Very avoidant of the reality. It's going to try to focus too much on the brightness, on the illumination, on the consciousness, that everything that isn't that bright, illuminated, conscious awareness, even the stuff that was brought to our conscious awareness that used to be unconscious, it doesn't fit. We're already taking up too much space. Sorry, the room's full, especially as the Sun and Jupiter are in Leo together. I think it'll alleviate a tiny, tiny bit as the Sun moves through the other zodiacal seasons. But again, with Jupiter and the South Node's involvement, it's gonna feel like room's full. There's no more room. Any other information? I don't care. La 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 la. Like Anything that makes us feel uncomfortable individually and collectively, it's going to be like la 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 la. I can't hear you. La 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 la. That's the energy I'm getting from Jupiter through Leo. I have talked more about that on my TikTok channel, Radius of Aurora. I will continue to talk about as we move through Jupiter through Leo for the next year. So if you want to check me out over there, or right here, check me out. No, just kidding. But quick plug, just because I do post more frequently on TikTok there. But getting back to the solar eclipse in Leo, I first want to bring it back to the eclipse cycle during the winter of this year of 2026, which began with the Aquarius new moon, solar eclipse, and then the Virgo full moon lunar eclipse. The Aquarius eclipse was on the 17th of February. The Virgo eclipse was on March 3rd. And there was an emphasis of Saturn's involvement with that moon, Saturn and Uranus and Venus and the moon. I think we talked a little bit about that in the Aquarius full moon video. And now the emphasis has switched. So even from the Cancer new moon and Aquarius full moon cycle we are now moving out of, beginning with this Leo new moon, there was still that emphasis on those similar planets, except rather than Venus's involvement, it was Mercury's involvement with this, which shifted the dynamic from embodiment and somatic experience to mind, to intellect, to strategy. That's what that last moon cycle did. But now, beginning with this eclipse cycle in Leo, it's going to be like, again, with Mercury and Jupiter and Psyche and the Sun and the Moon all in Leo and the South Node all in Leo. All of those things are just being ruled by the sun. All of those things are ruled by the element that, or the luminary that is in the sign that they are all sharing. So before, all roads led back to that Aquarius moon, and therefore the Saturn and Aries. Now all roads are just kind of staying up here where they are, and then all of this other involvement down here is leading back to Leo. So and that's just emphasized with this kite formation kind of flying us from the energy of Pluto, the death, the decay, the transformation, the rebirth. The energy of Pluto and Aquarius representing the collective, being like the catalyst for that forward movement, being guided by Uranus in Gemini, the unpredictability, the trickster energy, and Venus in Libra, the balance, the harmony, the unity, the togetherness, all of these things moving towards our Mercury in Leo, our like unapologetic self-expression, but also the performance. So it's really fascinating that we have the air signs with Pluto, Uranus, and Venus. Venus being in its rulership. We have these air signs that are very, naturally unapologetic in their nature. Libra is a little bit more like reserved in their expression because Libra is more focused on the other than the comfort of the self. So that brings an interesting dynamic with Venus's rulership there. But with Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius being the catalyst and one of the guiding factors of this, it's almost like, oh, that's fucking fascinating. So I've been talking about on my TikTok channel specifically, the there's going to be a clear divide as Jupiter transits through Leo of people who want to put the mask on and business as usual and pretend all of those deep, dark, scary things aren't real. And then there's other people who it's still going to be a conscious effort because this is a very strong and prominent energy that will want to put that mask back on, especially in terms of the system that we operate under, right? Currently, not for long. Currently, words are important. But what I'm understanding with this dynamic is that there is a strategy here. This kite formation, and Mercury is a trickster. Mercury itself is a trickster. This kite formation is allowing you to be subtle about the unconscious dynamics that you have brought to the surface. So this is for the group of people who are making the conscious efforts to not put the mask back on and call people out for their bullshit when they see them being blatantly ignorant about what they know to be true. This air trine, being guided by Mercury in Leo at the top, is allowing us to use self expression as a tool of strategy in order to bring the energy of Pluto, of death, of decay, of transformation, of rebirth, to eventually shoot it out through our means of self expression. And with Uranus in Gemini, Gemini being the youngest air trickster, Aquarius being the oldest air trickster, right? One of the second oldest trickster of the zodiac. This energy of the two trickster signs and the trickster planet of Mercury. Wow. And then Venus almost is giving like a beneficial energy in terms of like allowing it to, this is so fucking fascinating. So all of this trickster energy is letting you take like that side of yourself that refuses to or wants to refuse to put the mask back on and pretend everything is still like shit's still sweet, right? It's that side of yourself, that unconscious side of yourself that is finally has not only been ready to blossom, but is already emerging. And then Jupiter through Leo is going to try to like, no, there's no war in Bossing Say. There's no war in Bossing Say. Shut the fuck up. All of that Jupiter and Leo energy that's going to want you to like, it's reminding me of the I know I'm all over the place. Stick with me. It's reminding me of the Scooby Doo movie when the monsters take over the bodies and they're doing that like training session where it's like one guy gets pushed and he's like, "Sorry, man." He's like, "I'm gonna crush you to dust," and then they learn that that's not the right way to do it. Jupiter and Leo energy is that training module. Jupiter and Leo energy is the like, oh, sorry, man. It's cool, guy. Let's go throw the football and pretend everything's cool. Yeah, groovy. Like that's Jupiter and Leo energy, right? It's the you're not supposed to call out the weird shit. You're supposed to just have a groovy, fun time, right? So with this trickster energy of the kite on the new moon Leo eclipse, this trickster energy of the kite with the added harmonious aspect of Leo is helping to guide you and navigate you to express that truth, to help rip the mask off, but in a way that makes the other feel centered, where it's not an attack. This is the Venus and Libra representation. It's not an attack, it's a strategic guidance directly into their subconscious. So it feels like it's a choice they're making. It doesn't feel like you are attacking them for wanting to play pretend. It feels like, you know what, yeah, maybe I could expand that a little more. It's very like grassroots effort, like underground effort, but it's in your face. And that's the trickster side of it. It's in your face. Well, it's in their face, I should say. That's the trickster side of it. Because they won't even realize that you had any part to play. They won't realize that your unconscious nudges is exactly what ushered in that Plutonian death and decay of this weird fucked up mask into the rebirth and the regeneration of truth, because we cannot let go of the truth. And during this transit, during the solar eclipse in Leo, Mars and Ceres will be directly conjoined one another at 0 degrees Cancer. That's the only Cancerian energy we have here, but we're still tapped into the truth because of these two things. Because Mars is our planet of action. It's a planet, and I think is Mars. I don't think Mars likes being in Cancer just because it's a fire sign in a sign that represents the ocean and water, right? Um, but it's still like this aspect of allowing ourselves and allowing our actions to be guided by nurturing, right? And that's only emphasized with Ceres directly conjoining Mars at the time of this new moon. So it's our planet of action and drive and passion and willpower. And while it does feel a bit subdued in Cancer, it's subdued and it's working together with Ceres in order to accelerate and amplify that sense of nurturing, which is only going to help the Venusian side of that kite fly towards the big expression, the big expansive expression that we see all throughout Leo, which is helping people feel like it was their idea to make these subtle changes to align to the, as I put it in the other terms, to align to the resistance against the empire, right? This is so cool. This is so cool. This is really fucking cool. And that's why I like making these videos because I'm taking the notes and the notes feel very like I'm just saying what it is. And then when I talk about it, that's kind of when like the realizations anchor. So fuck yeah. Also, on top of the Mars and Ceres at 0 degrees, we'll have, and these are other than Chiron, because Chiron is an asteroid we always talk about. Chiron will also still be at 0 degrees Taurus. At this point, I believe Chiron is retrograde. Yep, Chiron is retrograde at this point. And another asteroid I've never talked about on this channel before, but one that I pay attention to in my own life. There's an asteroid named after Carl Jung. That's asteroid Young if you want to look it up in your birth chart. Again, I usually only pay attention to it for my own chart, but for whatever reason, I wanted to pull it up for this one, and I see why. Young will be at 0 degrees Scorpio, directly opposing Chiron at 0 degrees Taurus. And that means directly trining our Mars-Ceres conjunction. Now, if you think about Carl Jung's teachings, all about all about the unconscious, not the subconscious, but all about the unconscious, all about the ways that our shadow side is going to express itself through our conscious awareness until we become aware of that shadow side. And that dynamic just ties in not only the trine with Ceres and Mars, not only the opposition to Chiron, which represents our deepest wounds and our greatest efforts to heal them, and the fact that we can't really heal these wounds until we become consciously aware of them. Young being at 0 degrees in Scorpio, which is the planet or the sign that is ruled by Mars. So that young placement is ruled by that Cancer Mars. Also, that young placement in modern astrology is ruled by our Aquarius Pluto, which is the catalyst for the kite formation. 0 degrees is considered a critical degrees because 0 degrees in itself is an amplifier in astrology and in numerology. Anytime there's a zero anywhere in numerological terms, it just amplifies the energies of the numbers surrounding it. Zero is the greatest, most pure, for lack of a better term, the most pure expression of the sign that it's in, that 0 degree mark. So we have 0 degrees Cancer, with Mars, our planet of action, among other things, but in this case, our planet of action and passion and drive and willpower. Ceres, our divine mother and the goddess of the harvest. The devoted mother, as we talked about for the Aquarius full moon. We have Carl Jung's asteroid, representing those topics of the shadow and the unconscious and the unconscious archetypes we embody until we become consciously aware of them in Scorpio, the sign that rules death and sex and other things, but the sign that rules death and transformation. Opposing Chiron, our asteroid of our deepest wounds and our greatest efforts to heal them, in Taurus, which is the sign about like sensuality and nurturing yourself and like self-care and your worthiness and what you deserve in this lifetime. So the kite itself is loud. The Leo energy is loud. Even this dynamic with all of these guys, because because Chiron's also sextiling Mars and Ceres. So you have the trine with Young, and then the sextile with Chiron with that conjunction. So that in itself is subtle yet loud. It's almost like I feel like this is such a weird metaphor or example to use. This is what came to mind. I feel like imagine your conscious self and your unconscious self are two sides of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You lather it up with peanut butter, right? And I don't know about you guys, some people only like some people's like ratios for peanut butter jelly sandwiches are weird. I lather that shit up with peanut butter and I lather that shit up with jelly, right? And in this case, I'm imagining both sides of the sandwich to be really fucking lathered. But up until this point, they've been separate. The sandwich hasn't been put together yet. This Leo new moon solar eclipse is going to represent that conscious peanut butter self and that really thick layer of unconscious self just finally merging and getting all gooey and icky and not icky, it's delicious. Gooey and like sticky would be a better word. And like, once you put the peanut butter jelly together, you can't separate them in a way that they are still purely peanut butter and purely jelly. Once they are combined, even if you separate the two, there's going to be some jelly on the peanut butter and some peanut butter on the jelly. That's how this energy feels. It's like we're no longer able to separate the two. It's going to be a smorgasbord of conscious and unconscious expression coming to the surface to be seen and expressed and heard. Because that Mars Ceres conjunction is ruled by the moon, which is in Leo, ruled by the sun. We have Young, which is ruled by Mars, which is ruled by the moon, which is ruled by the sun. We have Chiron, which is ruled by Venus, which is in Libra. So, I mean, going back to the kite aspect then, because that Venus in Libra is it's in its own rulership, and it's literally just a closed loop of like, yeah, I'm just here to have a good time, bud. While everything else kind of does eventually lead back to that Leo sun, because even with Pluto, ruled by Saturn and Aries, ruled by Mars, ruled by the moon, ruled by the sun, everything else leads back to the sun in Leo, which is literally the opposite of the Aquarius full moon, which is so interesting. Everything else leads back to that, right? Except Venus. So Venus is very level-headed. Venus is very clear. Venus is very pure in her intentions, in her dynamic with this kite as one of the guiding wings. And with Uranus in Gemini is trickster unexpected. So it almost like Venus in Libra gives a certain aspect of like a groundedness where Pluto and Aquarius and Uranus and Gemini want to just shake shit up. Venus in Libra is kind of like is like the like the voice of reason there, where it's like, hey, let's not flip the whole table upside down, right? Maybe just the game board. Yes, we can still cause chaos, but not overwhelming. Like, let's make it a big wave instead of a tsunami. Like, let's get back. That's kind of Venus's role in this kite dynamic during this eclipse. So that's really fucking that's funny and it's fascinating. Oh gosh, what else do we have here? And underneath the surface, because we'll have at the exact moment, and that's something I didn't even realize, at the exact moment of the eclipse, which again, 1:37 p.m. Eastern time, make it work for your time zone. And if you are a ritualistic person, you like to do workings on the new and full moons, um, and specific workings on the eclipses as well, this is for you. At the exact moment of the eclipse, 1:37 p.m. Eastern time, Scorpio will be on the eastern horizon, Taurus will be on the western horizon, Aquarius will be at our roots, and what's going to be at the very peak of the sky? Leo. Leo, hello. So at the exact time of the eclipse, we'll have Mercury, Jupiter, Psyche, Sun, Moon, South Node, and the midheaven, all in Leo, all ruled by the sun. So the sun's going to be at its highest point during this eclipse. Do you hear the birds? Probably not. This laptop doesn't pick up anything outside. But anyway, on top of that, yeah, it's just something, again, if you're ritualistic, something to keep in mind for your workings. There's a lot of power here, especially if you're working with fire. A lot of power here. A lot of power here. Anyway, moving on. We'll have Lilith at 26 degrees in Sagittarius, and she will be making a near exact trine with Eris at 25 degrees in Aries, and then Vesta at 27 degrees Aries as well. So she's kind of directly in between that Vesta Eris conjunct. Oh, are they still conjunct? Technically, yeah, they're still within 2 degrees of one another, so I still count that. But at this point, the amplification of, remember what we talked about with the Leo season update, where Vesta came together with Eris, so we can become masters of the utilization of chaos as a tool rather than being swept away in chaos as a fool, right? Because that's what the systems and the powers and the empire has done to the collective for too fucking long. So Vesta and Eris coming together again, mastery of chaos as a tool. Now that Vesta kind of separated herself a little bit, we still have Lilith directly in between, aspecting, I should say, directly in between 26 degrees, Vesta at 27 degrees, and Eris at 25 degrees. So what this is telling me is that, again, Lilith is those repressed sides of ourself, the deep dark, like the sides of the feminine that are deemed unladylike, and you can't do that. That's not what girls do. Don't do that. I'm insecure, I'm a man. Sorry. Anyway, if you're a man watching this channel, that's not for you. Because I feel like I don't think I need to explain that. Anyway, Lilith at 26 degrees making that exact trine, harmonious aspect. Trines in itself offer stability because triangles are the most stable shape that exists in geometry. The triad, there's a reason, like the triple, the triplicity always comes up across nations, across cultures, across religions, across spiritual circles, across everything, because the triad, the triangle, is the most stable shape. So when any aspects between asteroids, planets, etc., make a trine, it's offering a sense of spiritual stability. When we have Lilith, the asteroid representing our deepest subconscious, not subconscious, well, yeah, subconscious, but our like what we repress within us because we've been taught to repress, coming together with Eris and Vesta. Eris being chaos and discord, Vesta being our sense of devotion to self and to our spirituality. When those three are making that divine trine, again, after Vesta has already moved through allowing us to learn how to use chaos as a tool, it's like creating a stable foundation where this side of ourselves, this Lilith side of ourselves, the repressed feminine, now has almost like a foundation to grow itself upon by utilizing chaos and the expression of chaos and almost becoming chaos in the lives of others through the expression of that repressed feminine energy. And it's not even like you're trying to promote chaos, it's just you start to express this side that has been repressed for so long. And to people who are still not, for lack of a better term, awakened, tapped in, right? For the people who are still under the spell, wearing the mask, we'll say, the people still under the illusion, they will see you unapologetically expressing this repressed feminine that they've been taught is wrong or icky or dirty or yucky or just they shouldn't do it. They'll see you expressing that and see you as the element of chaos. They'll see you expressing that and automatically equate you to chaos. So I think that's where that dynamic comes in, where Eris and Lilith are working together to create the foundation of chaos, where you're not really doing anything. to try to promote chaos, you're just fully expressing yourself, which is causing and reaping chaos in the lives of others who are still under the spell. And you showing devotion to allowing this side of your feminine energy, the repression, to actually express itself, that's the devotion that you get with Eris. So, this devotion to the expression of the repression is promoting chaos in the lives of others so that this new foundation that we are creating here, this new foundation we can grow upon in a way that allows those more repressive sides, those more chaotic sides of the feminine to express itself, to have a safe place to express itself, not only in ourselves, but in the collective. Because we need to move, and it's fascinating that this is happening. All three of those asteroids are going to be below the horizon at the time of this full moon. It's fascinating this is happening when Leo, a masculine sign with the sun, like the divine masculine, is the highest point in the sky. So it feels like this is all happening again, where I mentioned in the Aquarius full moon video that with all of the other planets being ruled by the moon and Saturn, except for the sun and Jupiter, it felt like all these other planets are co-conspiring against the sun and Jupiter and the regime as it stands. They're co-conspiring in a way that the sun and Jupiter can't hear, can't see, can't know about. And it's fascinating that this is happening below the horizon while all those other planets are in Leo, right? But going back to the kite again, where we have that trickster energy of Mercury being the forward movement, being the guiding like system of the kite in Leo. So it almost feels like it's not that co-conspiring stopped happening. It's that these other planets are now like moving into the sphere of Jupiter and the sun in Leo. They're moving into the sphere almost to like play business as usual, but in actuality, because it's the trickster energy guiding that kite, because it's Mother Moon coming together with the sun here. Mother Moon didn't forget her truth. Yeah, she might be hidden behind the sun for now, but she's not forgetting her truth. And Mother Moon, under the new moons, that's when Hecate emerges. That's when the witches come out. That's when the truth and the subconscious, it's when we're under the dark of night, right? So during the day, while this eclipse station's exact, yeah, Leo's the highest in the sky, but there's still this element of like subtlety and secrecy happening right in the faces of the sun and Jupiter and the South Node in this case in Leo. So again, that foundation of Lilith and Eris and Vesta coming together below the horizon just kind of amplifies that ideal. It emphasizes the fact that just because all those other planets are high up in the sky and sharing space with the pillars of the empire, right? Just because it's still sharing space doesn't mean the mission has just ceased. Doesn't mean we've stopped doing our work. And again, that's only emphasized by Young at 0 degrees, Mars and Ceres at 0 degrees, and Chiron at 0 degrees. It's only emphasized by that. And with that dynamic, Young, Ceres, and Mars will be above the horizon. Chiron will be just below the horizon at the exact moment of this eclipse. Which is fascinating because if we look at it this way, Chiron representing our deepest wounds and our efforts to hear them, and how our deepest wounds can adjust our subconscious, unconscious energy, the fact that Chiron's the only one in that dynamic that is below the horizon, representing what's underneath the surface. While Young, representative of the unconscious and the shadow sides of ourself, which is usually hidden, is above the horizon. Still in Scorpio, but it's above the horizon. So even that in itself is like this quick emergence of allowing that shadow side to not be so repressed, to not be so unconscious anymore. And utilizing that aspect of nurturing that we get with Mars and Ceres, 0 degrees Cancer, excuse me. We are nurturing our shadow side. So it feels safe and comfortable enough to express itself consciously above the horizon. While Lilith and Eris and Vesta are making their own plans to set a brand new foundation. They're setting up a brand new table. I don't know, the line "Papa's got a brand new bag" just came to my head, like from that Santa Claus song. Interesting. Let's continue on. Da 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 da. Oh, this was another thing I felt was we only have a couple more points to get through here. Oh, we're making good time. Hell yeah, we're making good time. Um, Another thing that kind of goes along with this in terms of the empire being represented of the patriarchy, right? South Node and Jupiter and the Sun in Leo, representative of the patriarchy. We'll also have Eros in Libra, the sign of the partner, directly opposing Vesta. Eros will be at 28 degrees, so I guess not directly opposing, but very closely. Eros is at 28 degrees Libra, and Vesta is at 27 degrees Aries. And again, Vesta is our deep devotional self, like the deep devotion we show ourselves and our spirituality and our truth and our path. The devotion we show ourselves, our body, our minds, our spirits, our souls every day to align to our truth and never let that internal flame die out because Vesta is the flame. Eros, in this case, Eros is representative of our sensuality and like our like deep like sexual kind of love and like the things that turn us on, right? That kind of sensuality that really gets us going, like on a physical matter. But if we look at Eros in this aspect from the point of his myth in Greek mythology, Eros is the divine lover of Psyche, who's sharing space with Leo in the patriarchal structure, right? But Eros is the divine lover of Psyche. And when Eros opposes Vesta, Eros being just above the horizon, Vesta being just below the horizon. My cat's being crazy over there. She just did one of those funny leaps. Anyway, I think she just went poop though. Poop zoomy time. Anyway, Eros being just above the horizon, conjoining young within 2 degrees, just over 2 degrees and 3 minutes of one another. But Eros conjoining young. But in this case, we won't even talk about that anyway because this one seems more important. Eros in Libra, the sign of the partnerships, right? Just above the horizon, our conscious awareness. Directly opposing Vesta, the sign of our devotional spirit and what we devote ourselves and our energy and our time and our awareness to. Just below the horizon, representing what's beneath the surface, the unconscious. There is this tension, opposition, between what we have been taught to the things we've been taught to associate with divine love and union and partnership and almost the romanticization of romantic partnership, that's in opposition to our devotion, which is simmering in the unconscious with Eris, the goddess of chaos and discord, making a harmonious trine to Lilith, that divine feminine aspect that's been repressed. Eros being above the horizon. So there's still this idea of like, again, the romanticization of divine union, because Eros and Psyche, that in itself is an element of divine union. But our devotional side opposing that is asking us, is Eros really what you're looking for right now? Is the love of Eros really what you need to stay devoted to self? Or is there a way that you, and again, because Eros is above the horizon, there's a conscious element to it. There's still a part of your consciousness that is attached to this idea that you need the love of Eros in order to feel complete. But with your devotional flame opposing that, opposing Eros, opposing the conscious expression, the conscious awareness of divine union and partnership in Libra, only emphasizing that, right? Eros opposing your devotional flame, which is below the horizon in the unconscious, allowing that flame to simmer and make light for that new foundational energy. With Pluto at the very bottom of the chart, that element of death and decay and rebirth and transformation at our roots, also at the tail end of the kite, acting as the catalyzer to allow that self expression to help subtly shift the dynamics of other people's unconsciousness. Is the love of Eros really what you need right now? Is divine union and partnership really the end all be all? Or, or is this idea that we can only feel fulfilled and complete with another person in divine union, in romantic partnership? Is that idea just another tool of the patriarchy to reap chaos in our unconscious and cause discord and make us feel separated from our true core needs and our conscious desires? Because sometimes if you dig deep enough, the things you truly desire, and I'm not talking about want, I'm talking about like crave, desire, like, and that's the love of Eros. If you have experienced the love of Eros, you know that shit takes your autonomy away, right? It's not fun. It's fun in its own way. It's not like the yearning and the emptiness you feel until you actually learn to heal that. It's not fucking fun. It's not fun. It's romanticized and it's not fun. It's a learning lesson, and it's not fun. And it's illuminating, and it's not fun. Anyway, where even was I with that? Yeah, I don't even remember what I was saying before because I I got so swept up in how much fun it really isn't, especially the aftermath of Eros. And that's what it's saying, is it's this devotional flame that's setting up this new foundation, Pluto ushering in the death and rebirth and allowing us to guide that death and rebirth through our conscious expression and awareness of self, being guided by Venus and Uranus. All of that added energy of Young and Mars and Ceres and Chiron at their 0 degree marks. There's a lot more happening that I think if your attention is focused too much on the other right now, if your attention is diverted, and this goes back to the thing I was talking about with time in the Aquarius full moon video, when we talked about Saturn and how Saturn's long term goals and commitment, and Saturn doesn't mind omitting short term gratification because Saturn knows the second if he's going on a steady track, right? Imagine a runner. Olympic runners are told never to look at your opponents unless you're Usain Bolt because you're a freak of nature in the best way. I mean that like he's crazy talented, right? Crazy gifted, right? When it comes to running. So he's the only one that can. But if you are like an Olympic runner, they always tell you don't look at where your opponents are because the second you turn your head, it slows down your pace. So Saturn omits short term gratification because he knows he's in it for the long haul. This is a marathon for him. This is not a fucking sprint. It's a marathon for him. And the second well, I guess the sprint is the example I'm using. So fuck it. He's trying to win the race. It's a sprint, but long term. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, he is focused on this and he doesn't care about short term gratification because he knows the second he turns his head towards that short term gratification, he slows down his pace and he can't make it to his true long-term goals, his true long-term gratification that's going to last and provide stability and fulfillment in ways that I won't say he can't expect, but he knows if he just keeps going forward, he will make it there even faster than if he turns his head for even 1 second to entertain the short-term gratification. If he entertains the short-term gratification, this path, this trajectory is knocked back 5 years, and then another 5 years, and then another 5 years. Like the moment he turns his head, he loses his pacing and loses a lot of time that he could have otherwise had at the end goal already, at the celebration, at the fulfillment, at whatever it is back there. That's what the energy of Eros opposite Vesta is representing here. Do you actually want that, or is it just taking away from your own self devotion, your own truth, your own inner illumination, your own spark, your own flame, your own expression, your own conscious awareness? So if around this time, I mean, if you think you want to get in a relationship or you're talking to somebody and you're unsure if you're meant to do it, if you're watching this video, I would say focus on yourself. Focus on yourself. Focus on the self. Focus on the self. Focus on the self. Stay devoted to yourself. Stay devoted to your vision. Stay devoted to your path. Because we are getting into a time, collectively speaking, where we know the system. We're at the beginning of the end. I mentioned it in the other video. We're at the beginning of the end. And the idea of romantic partnership is vastly going to shift. The dynamics, is not even the idea, the dynamics of romantic partnerships are going to vastly shift as we transition from the patriarchal structure we all know into whatever is next for us. The dynamic of romantic partnership is vastly going to switch. So if you know you have a specific duty, even if you don't know what that role is, you don't know what that duty is yet, but you know you need to continue on this trajectory. But maybe you're not seeing the rewards yet. You're not seeing the progress. Every day you're making progress, but it's not always seen. It's not always known. So sometimes, even if you are still devoted and still going forward, it can feel a little bit like, what's the fucking point of this? And you start to purposefully, consciously seek out distractions. And energetically speaking, wherever your mind goes, wherever your attention goes, that's where your energy flows, and that is what will be attracted to you. So of course, if you've been devoted and focused on this thing for so long, and then you let your mind start to wander, but also wonder. You let your mind start to wander and say, "Oh, but what if I could have a partner? I think it could be fun." You're opening yourself up to that magnetism, right? You're opening yourself up to bring in potential partners to you because that's what you are focusing on. And the more you start to focus on that, the more you're opening up your field to that opportunity and that dynamic, the more you start your magnet starts to get further away from the trajectory of your purpose, your truth, and towards this idea of partnership. And ultimately, like I don't know what I believe in terms of love. I don't know. I don't believe in like twin flames or there's one soulmate for all of us, right? And I think partnerships have a very important role to play in our self-awareness and understanding of self, but I don't think it's something that we should go after because we're bored or because we're not seeing progress on this trajectory. And sometimes when we're not seeing progress on this trajectory, unconsciously we can start to open our awareness and magnetism up to a field that's going to be a really great distraction from this thing. And then you will call this fate. You'll say, "Oh, I wasn't seeing progress that way anyway." You'll call this fate when in actuality it's just your energy dynamics. And this is always going to call to you. This path is always going to fucking call to you. So if you are being pulled in a different direction from that path and that direction leads you to unionship, either you're going to stay in that union forever and be fucking miserable because you never went after the actual thing that you know you were destined for. You're either going to die miserable in a partnership that was never actually rooted in truth because this is your truth. And I'm not wishing this upon you. It's just take it from the I've experienced a lot, okay? I've experienced a lot. Take this as advice from your older sister, right? Either you go after this partnership and call it fate, and no matter how miserable you get, you still don't leave because, it's just what I'm supposed to do now, right? Or you end up getting really fucking heartbroken and it ends horribly and you have to pick up the pieces after they threw a dynamite into your structure, right? So while you could have just stayed the course and made it to the final destination, which could include true union, rooted in truth, it could include partnership, it could include everything that you actually are meant for, whether that is partnership, whether that's being single and just having a great community, like whatever that end goal is for you. If you stay the path, you'll get there. It'll come to you. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. But it's when you don't see the progress here and your mind starts to drift and wander and like question this path, right? And I'm not saying questioning is a bad thing, right? But it's when you start to get disconnected from the truth and you start to say, well, maybe this is the truth. And then you turn all the way away. You're going to have to start, not from step one, but after this collapses, inevitably, if this truth is strong enough, it's always going to call you back, which will cause this to collapse if it's not rooted in truth. After this inevitably collapses, the grenade goes in, your entire foundation is blown to smithereens. You have to pick up each brick one by fucking one to rebuild just the platform, to rebuild the foundation before you can even start walking down that path again. So that's why Saturn stays the course. That's why Saturn says, nope, fuck you. I like love you. I'm not trying to be dismissive of you, but no, I got shit to do. I got shit to do. If it's meant to be, it will be when I reach my shit that I'm doing. That's Eros opposite Vesta. Don't let the idea and the concept of divine union and sensuality and sexuality, don't let this concept that's been spoon fed to you by the patriarchy distract you from your true purpose and your actual work. Because again, if you stay the course, love rooted in truth will find you however it is best meant for you. Stay the course and trust. Stay the fucking course and trust. And don't get distracted. And that's the other thing too. When you are so devoted and like laser focused on your truth, on your course, on your path, you embody that truth naturally. So you become more magnetic, which means people are going to be attracted to you, right? No matter what, they will see you and you will have this orbit to you that's like, holy shit, like they've got their shit together. They've got something going on. And I'm really curious about that. I want to learn more about that. Use your fucking discernment. Not everybody that is magnetized to you is fate. Not everybody that's magnetized to you is meant for you. Not everybody that's magnetized to you has your best intentions in mind. Use your fucking discernment. I don't know who this is for. Some of y'all need to hear this evidently. Holy shit. Holy shit. Anyway, that was almost 10 minutes of me talking about that. Anyway, I only have two more points left. Quickly, Phallus is going to be quincunx Psyche. Phallus is at 10 degrees and 23 minutes. 1, 0, 2, 3. What did I say about zeros in numerology? They amplify the numbers around them. 1, 2, 3. Amplified by 0. Anyway, Phallus is at 10 degrees and 23 minutes in Capricorn. Quincunx, so again, not directly opposite, but one step over. It's like the example from the table. You're sitting at a long triangle table. The two oppositions are at the heads. Quincunx would be one of the opposition, and then one of the opposition's number two, right? That's quincunx, where they can't directly see each other, but they can say a whole lot to each other without saying a word through the side eyes, through the energy exchange, right? That's the quincunx. So Phallus at 10 degrees Capricorn is quincunx Psyche at 11 degrees Leo. And that's actually less than a degree because it's 10 degrees and 23 minutes, 11 degrees and 5 minutes. So they are making this aspect here, Psyche representing the seat of our soul. We talk a lot about Psyche on here, and also everything that we go through in order to discover the indomitable spirit of the soul, right? That's Psyche. She's also in Leo at 11 degrees, which is a master number in numerology. Psyche at 11 degrees Leo, camping out with the sun and the moon and Jupiter and Mercury and the midheaven at the time of the eclipse and the south node. Psyche's got a lot going on. She's kind of shoved into the spotlight, right? Well, not even because she's just kind of this little asteroid. So she's in the sign of the spotlight, but she's kind of in the background. She's not on the forefront, right? She's like the ensemble if we're looking at a play, right? The sun and the moon are the love interest, and Jupiter is the best friend. Jupiter is Mercutio. Mercutio? Why does that not sound right? From Romeo and Juliet. Anyway, Jupiter is the best friend, and Mercury is the evil trickster villain that actually helps everybody else grow. And then Psyche's the ensemble. Psyche and the South Node are the ensemble, which, the play could still go on without the ensemble, but they kind of make up a lot of the entertainment and the plot, and they are the background. They help things move along, right? Quincunx, Phallus. And if you remember, we talked about Phallus recently. Phallus is the asteroid that tells us one small decision can alter the trajectory of your life moving forward. Because Phallus' story ultimately accidentally ended up getting immortal Chiron dead. That's Phallus' story. So when Phallus and Psyche are making this inconjunct aspect to each other, this quincunx, inconjunct and quincunx, they're the same thing, they're interchangeable. Making this quincunx aspect to one another, again, saying a lot to each other without saying a fucking word. It's almost like bringing it back to what I said that Psyche's role was in the Aquarius full moon. Psyche was in that conjunction with the Sun and Jupiter within a single degree. Psyche was at like 5 degrees and like 52 minutes, I think, and then the Sun and Jupiter were at 6 degrees and 30 minutes and 6 degrees and 26 minutes. So within 30 minutes, very, very fucking close, half a degree away. Psyche was in that conjunction, that dynamic, but because the Sun and Jupiter were not only so close, but both of them are so bright and large and expanding and illuminating, they didn't even know Psyche was there. And if we go back to the dynamic that the planets were playing about like co-conspiring against the regime, right? I love making this into like drama. This is kind of fun. Like this whole story. Anyway, like co-conspiring against the regime, that Sun and Jupiter, they're having a boys' night. They can't hear, they can't see, they're not even computing anything that doesn't align to their awareness of reality, their conscious awareness of reality. So they're very unconscious about their own unconscious, right? Psyche went through the trials and tribulations, literally went to the underworld and came back to life, came back, and now she's shoved into the spotlight with the Sun and Jupiter. But she was working with all of the other planetary energies in order to kind of listen in on the Sun and Jupiter, get the intel. And I think that's kind of the role she's still playing here. She's not center stage, she's not bright, she's not illuminated, she's not in your face, she's in the background. Not only reminding us of our indomitable spirit and everything we went through, and the ways that we have the ability to actually take down the regime as it stands, as Psyche moves through the sign that's representative of the regime in this aspect. She's the subtle reminder. Don't lose your soul to the mask. Don't lose your soul to the mask. And I think that's what that quincunx aspect with Phallus represents. One minor, like one small decision can alter the trajectory of your life. That decision to put that mask on and morph into it like Jim Carrey can alter the direction of your life. Can take you off of this track and get you distracted and make you think this is fate. When in reality it was just ego and illusion and glamour. Be very mindful. Confirmation. I don't know if you heard her. My cat just meowed. Confirmation. One small decision can alter the trajectory of your life moving forward. So when you feel you're being like sucked back into the performance, into the glamour, into the falsities, expressing too much of your conscious self while omitting your unconscious self. There's an element of Leo season, and especially as Jupiter moves through Leo, that we will need to be very consciously aware of ourselves and our habits and our unconscious like tendencies. because it's going to, through Jupiter through Leo, is going to be a conscious effort to remain connected to the unconscious. And I think this eclipse in Leo is going to be the beginning of that. We're gonna be really tested by that. But at the same time, again, we have the trickster energy guiding us through this. We have Venus and Uranus and Pluto. Speaking of the girl, we have Venus and Libra Venus and Pluto and Uranus and Mercury all working together in this kite dynamic, right? To guide us forward towards the conscious expression, but coming from the depths of the Plutonian Aquarius energy, right? We have a lot of help, which we're going to need a lot of that subtle asteroid planetary help when dealing with these like monoliths moving through Leo. Jupiter through Leo for the next year. I think it's until July 26th of 2027, Jupiter will be in Leo. South Node moving through Leo until 2028. The Sun moving through Leo, I mean, that's only relevant for, about a month and a half. A month and a half? How long is each season? Why am I blanking? No, a month. Anyway, that was weird. That was weird. Anyway, I think that means we're almost done. But I did want to mention this. Juno's going to be at 29 degrees Capricorn in aspects to the node at 29 degrees Leo and Aquarius. And I said this exact thing on my TikTok. I literally read it verbatim from here. I'm going to read it here too because it feels relevant, and it connects to what we moved through with the cradle and then with the Aquarius full moon as well. Or maybe it was Leo season. Anyway, it calls us back to another video I made. And then after this, we'll be done. Thanks for being here, y'all. But with Jupiter at 29 degrees Capricorn, making aspects to the nodes at 29 degrees Leo and Aquarius, respectively, I said it feels like a reclamation of the masculine leaning sides that Juno directly opposed in the cradle, the regime. It's almost like she is now reclaiming her own sacred expression of the masculine dynamic away from the watchful eye of her husband, representative of the patriarchal structure. Going back to the role I said Saturn was playing in Leo season, like he knows the direct role he played in the genesis of the structure as it stands, but he's also seeing clearly, to his dismay, the pain and the struggle that this structure has wrought upon the collective, and is now subtly moving in a way that helps the resistance, in a way that he can also use plausible deniability to deny his involvement completely. We talked all about that in the Leo season reading or the Aquarius reading. That if you want more deep depth, go look at that. But moving on from there. What's fascinating here, mythologically speaking, Juno, Hera, I'll use them interchangeably. Juno is Saturn's child. Saturn, as we just talked about. Jupiter, Zeus, is also Saturn's child. Zeus is the child that Saturn, Kronos, knew was prophesied to overthrow him. And obviously, Zeus succeeded. Saturn didn't succeed in his attempts to mitigate that prophecy, thanks to the assistance of Rhea. But obviously, it's possible that Saturn would harbor resentment towards Zeus for his downfall, for taking his seat of power. He now sees Zeus, Jupiter, doing too much to uphold the structure that now, doing too much to uphold the structure that now that Saturn is separated from, retired from the game, and now that he's separated from it, he can see the other ways in which his other children, specifically Juno and Pluto in this aspect, are teaming up to directly oppose not necessarily Jupiter and Jupiter's reign, because in this case, Jupiter through Leo is representative of the structure, especially with the South Node's involvement there. So Pluto and Juno aren't directly opposing their brother. They're directly opposing what their brother is currently upholding. So in a way, it's like Jupiter is in the wrong place at the wrong time, but I said this last time too, it's not really the wrong place because nothing is ever wrong or right. Right? It's just Jupiter is where he needs to be in order to allow the amplification and like over objectification of the system to reach ahead, right? Ahead meaning like not ahead, but like ahead. Come to a head. That's why Jupiter is in Leo now with the South Node, because Jupiter's involvement with the South Node is going to make it so glaringly obvious all the ways the system doesn't fucking work anymore, and also hasn't worked for a really fucking long time for anybody. It's never worked for anybody except the people it was supposed to work for. That's going to become glaringly obvious as Jupiter transits through Leo. And that's why he's not in the wrong place at the wrong time, because Jupiter is necessary in order to make bigger the glaringly obvious fact that this system, this regime needs to fucking crumble, right? And Jupiter and the South Node together are trying to uphold a system that everybody else can clearly see is already disintegrating. It's already collapsing. So, to get ahead of it, Saturn, as the ruler of Aquarius and Capricorn, he is subtly assisting his children, Pluto and Juno, with the help of the destiny energy of the North Node to give the collective, Aquarius, the longevity and staying power they'll need in order to take down the regime. Again, not getting distracted from the fucking path. And Saturn's involvement in this is truly important because it is about longevity. It's not going to be an overnight change or reclamation. And the system will fight tooth and nail to remain, especially as the South Node and Jupiter are together in Leo for the next year, Jupiter, and the next nearly 2 years for the South Node. But once Leo is cleared of that air, like all of the energy of Jupiter and the South Node specifically, then Pluto will be able to move through Aquarius unencumbered by the opposition of his brother and the South Node. And that is when we'll truly start to see lasting structural changes. Lasting structural changes. There may still be opposition at that point by the regime itself, but the collective will be stronger and will be able to vastly outlast the burning embers of what once was. Because again, Pluto's transition through Aquarius is another 16 years. At least another 16 years. Where Jupiter is only 1 year and the South Node is just about 2 years from today. So in the grand scheme of things, again, going back to that metaphor I keep using about the immediate fires in front of our faces, in the grand scheme of things, while yes, it seems like the chaos and the fires that are very unignorable right now, it seems like that's all there is. But Pluto still has another 16 years in the sign that represents the collective. And then it moves to the sign that represents the collective unconscious. Whereas again, Jupiter has a year in Leo. The South Node has 2 years in Leo. Once that energy is moved out and Pluto is not opposed by any other larger planetary dynamic, that's when the collective will really start to see the change. But in the immediate time frame, the next 2 years while the South Node's through Leo, that glamour magic, that Leo glamour magic that the regime has upheld for a very long time, while it's losing its touch, it's going to try to consciously get you to focus too much on logic, get to focus on too much of what you can immediately see, touch, smell, sense, feel. I almost said fear, but also that feel and fear. They're gonna play with your fucking emotions to make you slip into whatever control they want you to slip into. They're gonna play with your fucking mind. So you need to be so deeply connected to your unconscious awareness, so deeply connected to yourself and your truth, that anything they try to do to overtake your conscious awareness doesn't fucking work. Because your roots are planted so far deep that their fires, their forest fires, yeah, let them burn everything down. You are planted so deep, you're connected to the fucking core of the earth, babe. So their forest fire, it's like a haircut. Okay, you took a couple inches off. It's gonna grow back stronger and longer than it has before. That's where your focus needs to be, not on the immediate. Obviously, not ignoring the atrocities they are reaping, being there for your community, being there for other people, being the pillar that you are. Because people who aren't as deeply connected are going to easily be swayed. People who aren't as deeply connected are going to feel that forest fire as everything burning because the roots aren't as deep, but the roots are still there. And that's kind of the reminder you need to bring while Jupiter transits through Leo and the South Node transits through Leo for the next 2 years, year and 2 years. Just being that reminder of you are much more than what we can see on the surface. Don't let the regime trick you into thinking the surface is all there is. Because there's a lot of work being done underground. There's a lot of fucking work being done underground. Join the resistance. And joining the resistance starts with something as simple as awareness. Anyway, that's it. Yeehaw. Love y'all. Happy eclipse season. uh, Catch you for the Virgo season update. Heck yeah. And on my TikTok if you want to meet me over there. If you like random writing too, random poetry, random photography, follow me on Substack under the same name, Radius of Aurora. And in the meantime, inward, onward, and upward, my people. Oh yeah. Love y'all.